Formula One is a sport. Sorry, I had to make that joke. Anyways, Formula One is a sport where the best motorsport drivers, and Lance Stroll, compete in a free-for-all competition for one ugly-ass trophy. And it's come to my attention recently that a lot of you don't know what the sport is or why anyone would watch it. And to be honest, you guys have a point. But trust me, man, 20 rich guys going in circles sounds a lot more fun than you would think. If Formula One could be defined in some words, I would use the terms fast, engineering, beautiful, orgasm, and addictive. Trust me, man, you'll watch one race and then becomes two and two becomes three, and then you find yourself wondering about the drivers' lives until somehow you end up becoming an addict to the sport who is immersed in every single detail about it. So what makes a sport so addictive? Why is it so popular? Why is it so peak? Well, let me explain the sport to you. I am Formula Duck, and let me tell you about this sport that has changed my life and hopefully will change yours too. No guarantee for the better though. F1 is a very complicated sport, as you can imagine. However, it really is more simple than you think. A common deterrent I see from the sport is how it's too complicated or it's too hard to get into. Well, my poor innocent little viewer, let me tell you why that is not the case. Basically, all Formula One is a competition. Obviously, 20 drivers, 10 teams, all vying for a big trophy. How you get this trophy is by winning races or simply finishing the best you can. In a race, the drivers who finish in the top 10 get the points, while the teams get points based on the same metrics too. So, say for example, a team has both their drivers finish in the top 10. The team collectively will get the sum of their points, while the drivers get their own individual points they score themselves. So the driver with the most points at the end of the season gets the driver's title, while the team with the most points at the end gets the constructor's title. So now you may be asking yourself, why the trouble of doing all of this? Who on earth would set up such a ridiculous competition? Well, essentially, the automobile was made and less than 5 seconds later, the people were like, let's race them. So after many unofficial races and unfortunate deaths, governing bodies were made such as the FIA, and they would go on to create Formula One, a sport where you build the fastest car according to a set of regulations. So essentially, it's like any other sport, just with wheels and an engine included. Okay, but how does a race work now? Well, I don't fucking know. Yeah, truthfully, that's my answer because the governing body, the FIA, seem to not know themselves. One year there will be moves like this that are cool and allowed, and then the next you'll get sent to the death penalty for doing something as small as going over track limits. Well, I'll do my best to explain how these things go. A typical race weekend starts on Thursday, where the drivers and team principals do interviews and briefings, blah blah blah, the boring stuff. Friday is when cars go out on track though, since that is the practice day. However, there are some special weekends called the sprint weekends where there are two races that go on, a mini race and then the real race. So in these sprint weekends, Friday hosts one practice session before sprint qualifying, where all the drivers go out and set the fastest times they can, which will dictate your starting position. Then Saturday typically holds the final practice session and the full qualifying for the main race. However, again, on sprint weekends, it instead hosts the mini sprint race and then it goes into the full main qualifying. And then on Sunday, no matter the weekend type, it will always hold the main race. During the race, there are a couple things to note. Firstly, there are mechanisms in the car that, when activated, give the car some extra juice to go faster. These mechanisms are called the DRS and ERS. DRS stands for something I don't know, and it opens the rear wing, which makes the car go faster in a straight line. And ERS also stands for something I don't know, and it's basically a battery in the engine that, when activated, gives a couple of hundred extra horsepower to the engine. In the race, there are also tire strategies to worry about. The FIA permits that all teams must pit at least once in the race, and this creates strategy. I don't know shit about strategy. What I typically do is just nod along to whatever the professionals say and act like I know what it means, so I suggest doing the same. There are also 3 different tires that the teams can choose from. The soft tires are the fastest tires but also get ruined the quickest. The medium tires are the middle of the road tire and it burns through at a moderate pace. And the hard tire is the slowest tire, however it burns through the slowest and is the most durable. There are also 2 other tires called the intermediates and wet tires. However, they're only used in rainy conditions. The interns are for light rain and the wets are for heavy rain. Okay, you might say to yourself, but how does this all work? What are the rules of the sport? Well, my unfortunate teeny tiny weasel of a viewer, let me explain. The rules are simple. For teams, follow some regulations and build your car around them to make it as fast as possible. There's a reason why F1 is dubbed the pinnacle of motorsport. This sport is the pinnacle in the sense that you won't find more speed elsewhere, and if you are a technical nerd, you won't find more detailed engineering in cars elsewhere. So currently, This base model is the current regulation for this season and has been since 2022. However, they are changing it for next year in 2026, where the car is smaller and lighter, so hopefully it means better racing. Now, if there are rules, surely they could be broken, right? Well, yeah, no Formula 1 season is complete without at least one team being accused of cheating. A team can cheat in so many ways, but the most common ways are by not following the regulations to the T and coming up with a custom workaround not detailed in the regs, or by simply just upgrading way too much. There is this thing called a cost cap where every team has a spend limit of the amount of money they can use to upgrade the car. This is to level the playing field since some teams are loaded up the wazoo with cash and others are working with scraps. Again, no season of F1 is complete without at least one guy being accused of cheating. Okay, now for the driver rules, and they all really boil down to don't be a dick. Don't be a dick who punts other people off the track for no reason. Don't be a dick who is impatient and causes a crash. And especially don't be a dick if you're way too angry with how things are in the race. Did you notice I only used clips from one guy? Max Verstappen is the sport's dick. You either love him or hate him. Anyways, if you are a dick, the FIA charges you with penalty points that take a stupid long time to go away. Build up 12 over a period of time and boom, prison time for you. Race bans don't often happen, however interestingly, it happened twice to one team last season. In 2024, Haas F1 team had both their drivers get disqualified in two different races. Once for their driver Kevin Magnussen who got 12 penalty points, and another for the driver Nico Hülkenberg who didn't follow protocol in the race. Speaking of protocol, there are things the governing body have which dictate the race. One of these things are flags. There are a ton of flags that have different meanings, however, here's the basic ones. Green flag, shit looks good at race. Yellow flag, shit's not looking too hot over here. Drive slow and be careful. Red flag, shit's really not looking too hot and we gotta stop the race. Blue flag, you are slow as hell and you need to get out the way so you can be lapped. Black and white flag, your class card is one more flip away from getting a call home, so behave yourself now. Black flag, an American punk rock band. There are more flags, however, they're such an oddity that if they're ever deployed, commentators will probably just explain what they mean to you. There are also these things called race briefs where the FIA will sit down all the team leaders and drivers and tell them things they can and cannot do. They'll typically say things like, if you go off track, take this route, or they'll say if your car breaks down, you'll be forbidden from getting outside help, which is what Hülkenberg did to warrant his ban last year. Okay, now that you understand the rules and basics, what about the teams and the drivers themselves? Well, my poor sweet dumb viewer, let me explain. Each of the 10 teams has 2 drivers and the goal is to get as many points as possible, which can lead to crashes and incidents, so without further ado, here they are. From worst to best, we currently start with the Sauber F1 team, which is just a sad team. A sad team is fitting because, I mean, look at them. They are sponsored by 2 controversial companies. Stake is a gambling website that is contributing to the rising epidemic of young men losing fortunes and becoming incels, and they're also sponsored by Kick, which is a streaming platform with a lot of controversy surrounding gambling, dickheads, and even sexual predators. Perfect for a Formula 1 team. Now, the team itself isn't inherently evil, they are just broke and need to make money somehow. However, the storm is almost over since next year they transition into the Audi Formula 1 team, which can hopefully be more competent because, sponsors aside, these lot are anything but competent. Last year, there was a running joke where they take like 2 to 5 business days for a pit stop, while other teams got it done in like 2.5 seconds. Last year, their car was probably slower than actually getting 1,000 horses to push a Formula 1 car, and last year, their 2 drivers wanted to do anything but race. Valtteri Bottas over here was putting ass on the timeline unprovoked, and Zhou Guanyu was aura farming instead of being good. This led to the team firing them both for this year, and instead they hired Nico Hülkenberg, who is still the worst best driver, and a rookie named Gabriel Bortoleto, who seems to be very promising and could be something special. Everyone loves an underdog, so if they are ever close to scoring points, you know I'm a root for them. The next team is Williams, and they are one of the few family-owned teams left in the motorsport world in general, but even then, they aren't really family-owned anymore. But they still have that heritage, and this team used to run the show back in the 80s and 90s. They were the team you wanted to race for back then, but nowadays, I'd rather go to Sauber than Williams. These guys are struggling with money, man. Like, you'd think it was still the Great Depression with the way these guys move. Last year, these poor guys were telling their drivers not to crash so they could save money. And of course, it was fitting that their drivers crashed a whole damn lot. Their drivers for this year, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, have a simple task. Don't fucking crash and go make some cash. Let's see how they botched this one up this season. The next team we have in the performance chart is Visa Cash App Racing Bulls RB. Yes, that is their full name. They are the Red Bull Racing second team, and their primary goal is developing youngsters in F1 machinery so that the main Red Bull team can have some new promising young drivers. There's really nothing to say about these guys since, who supports Robin over Batman? Their drivers are cool though. Yuki Tsunoda has been with the team since 2021, and he is simply way too good for them. He has been overdeveloped and needs better machinery so he could really show what he is capable of, since Red Bull, I guess, still think it's World War II and fear the Japanese or something. And their other driver for this year is another rookie by the name of Isaac Hadjar, and I couldn't tell you shit about him other than he has a potty mouth and likes One Piece. Goated behavior, to be honest. Speaking of goats, Haas F1 team. Haas F1 team is the American team, and you know exactly what that means. These guys are chaotic as all hell. If there was a big crash in the race, chances are a Haas car is at the scene of it. But it's not all bad, since if there was a crazy result for a midfield team, chances are Haas F1 were that midfield team. With Haas F1, you either get total embarrassment or total elation. No in-betweens. Currently, they are on the up though, since they secured a partnership with Toyota and have 2 new drivers this season that are fast as all hell. Esteban Ocon is unfortunately French, but he does have great speed, and the other driver is yet another rookie. Oliver Behrman is one of the most promising names to have ever entered Formula 1. He has dominated his way up the ladder and showed really high talent, which does create pressure, but he has raced in 3 F1 races before last year, including one for Ferrari, so I think he'll do just fine. Haas F1 are on the up though, so keep a mighty eye on them. Alpine are French. If that sounds appealing to you, then go ahead, join them. It won't be fun though, I promise you that. Also, they have yet another rookie with Jack Doohan, but he's probably going to be fired soon for no reason. Now we have Aston Martin, and if you qualify for at least one of these 3 things, then you are an Aston Martin fan. 1. If you are a Nepo baby, then you'll love this team since their driver Lance Stroll is the literal definition of nepotism. No talent, no hard work, just money. 2. If you like middle-aged Spanish men, their other driver Fernando Alonso is the DILF of F1. He is a fantastic driver with only 2 driver's titles, but he has fought for many more in his younger years. Now in his older years, he is simply having fun, but he is still absolutely one of the best on the grid. 3. If you like true underdogs. These guys never really get any special result, but when they do, man, do they fight hard as hell for it. That's really their legacy too, since back before they were Aston Martin, they fought in the midfield and were typically the kings of it. Right now, they aren't too hot, but hey, maybe Alonso and the Nepo baby could come back soon. Who knows? Speaking of who knows, Mercedes F1 team. Not too long ago, this team were the number ones. From 2014 to 2021, this team won the Constructors title in all of those years and were simply untouchable. Then Max Verstappen came in them, and yes, I mean exactly what I said, and now they're alright, I guess. They can still compete for wins, but not titles anymore, which sucks, but a win is a win, I guess. They do have one of the best driver pairings though, since George Russell is probably top 3 or 4 drivers on the grid, and given the right car, it's not a matter of if he'll win the title, it's a matter of when he'll win the title. And their other driver is yet another rookie, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and he is quite literally a generational talent. He won so much in the junior series and was simply untouchable, which landed him a top drive for his debut season. Mercedes could come back soon, but I wouldn't count this year as being the one they come back in. Red Bull is our next team, and my word, how the mighty have fallen. If you were to tell a Red Bull fan in 2023 what their fate would be in 2024, they would call you stupid, but alas, it happened. Red Bull is not all doom and gloom though. I mean, sure, their team principal is a sexual harasser and their second in command is the race's grandpa, but trust me, it's not all bad. Their drivers are Liam Lawson and the Max Verstappen. Max currently is the reigning world champion despite the hell that was 2024. He has won the driver's title 4 times in a row now and has won 63 races before the age of 30. If you simply want to support the best, then Max is your guy to cheer for. He is dead ass a cheat code, since even when the car is horrible, and I mean horrible, he will somehow put on the podium at least, and it's just simply that guy. However, if you want to support something more than a team, but rather a vision or a dynasty full of heritage, history, and victory, Ferrari and McLaren are the teams for you. It's really your choice who you support, since Both are highly prestigious in not only the F1 world, but the entire motorsport world. Obviously, as you can tell, I am a Ferrari fan, but there's no shame in being a McLaren fan. Ferrari is the oldest team on the grid since they debuted in the first year of F1 ever in 1950, and they're also the most successful team in F1. They have 16 titles, which completely trumps any other team in the sport. However, despite this, they haven't won a title since 2008, which is the longest drought ever in the team's history. Now, that is because of bad luck, but more primarily, completely inept leadership. But that's another discussion. Right now, their leadership looks great though, and the team every single year is starting to reflect their dominant selves again, which is only helped by their drivers. Charles Leclerc is a Max Verstappen level driver without the fast cars. He is in essence Max's equal since karting, and while Max has gone on to become a 4-time world champion, Charles is just waiting for his moment, which could maybe be this year. Then there is his teammate, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is not only one of the best in the sport, he is probably, or rather definitely, the best to have ever done it, period. His prime days are behind him, but what he is now is still a driver that can push for the title given the right team and car. Lewis is basically the LeBron James of F1, and Charles is his Luka. On the contrary though, we have McLaren, who also experienced similar droughts to Ferrari recently. McLaren are the second most successful team in F1, but they have had an adventure since 2012. After 2012, something strange happened. They became mid in 2013 before becoming quite literally the worst team on the grid in 2015 by far. Since then, they have climbed out of the trenches year by year and established themselves again as a midfield team, before in 2024 they became the fastest team on the grid again by far. While Max took home the driver's title, it wasn't Red Bull that got the constructors, it was McLaren, which ended their super long drought, and now they are the team to beat. In just 10 years, they went from the worst by far to the best by far, and only look to go further unless Ferrari can stop them. Their drivers too deserve credit as well, since Lando Norris, despite his many flaws, can still be a champion level driver as long as he gains the consistency. Their other driver, Oscar Piastri, is also extremely talented, and you'd be surprised to find out he's only entering his 3rd year of F1 ever. Is he as talented as Lando? Probably not, but he is pretty damn close and may as well be. McLaren easily have the best driver lineup on the grid, with only Ferrari posing as a threat to them. This right here is what makes this sport peak. The rivalries. Ferrari versus McLaren, Red Bull versus Mercedes, Williams versus Det, Alpine versus themselves. Throughout the entire year, there are stories of constant rivalries, internal or not, and this creates drama, which leads to juicy bits. Then the drama creates motivation to prove them wrong on track, and if this works, we get peak racing like never before. And if it doesn't work, it either boils over, which leads to a crash perhaps, which leads to drama and the cycle repeats, or it doesn't boil over and it just simply isn't enough, which leads to embarrassment and more drama. I think you get the picture by now. 2025 is looking to be an amazing year for F1 due to so much drama from 2024, and the car development is likely going to reach its peak, which means extremely close racing. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of it, and at least keep up with the highlights on YouTube. 2025 will be an amazing year, and preseason testing starts this week, so make sure to stay updated on all the incoming news about the season. So yeah, that was my F1 explanation. I got nothing else to add other than tune into this season of F1 and see why this sport's rising fan base will continue to rise. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for their continued support, and remember, if you want to see videos early and get some more cool benefits, make sure to join us since it also really helps me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe for better content, and make sure to let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.